Many believe they are living simply because they breathe, walk, and work. They confuse movement with direction, routine with purpose, and activity with life. Yet they fail to realize they stopped choosing long ago. They no longer decide. They merely repeat. They no longer live. They merely survive. Carl Jung taught that the greatest enemy of a fulfilled life is not failure. It is unconsciousness, that silent autopilot that numbs the mind, silences the soul, and turns days into photocopies. You are not here to be a machine of empty habits. You are here to build, to feel, to grow, to awaken each morning with clarity, intention, and power. And all of that begins when you take back control of your mind and lift it from its sleep. Because living is not something that happens. It is something you choose. If you want a different life, you don't need to change everything. You just need to start being present, to make conscious choices, to take back the wheel. Because as long as you remain on autopilot, your life will be a copy. But when you awaken, your life becomes a masterpiece. Millions walk the world with empty eyes, bent backs, and minds elsewhere. They wake to an alarm they hate, obey a routine they never chose, and fall asleep with a fatigue they cannot explain. It is not physical exhaustion. It is disconnection. It is the result of living unconsciously, of repeating without questioning, of doing without feeling, of existing without truly living. And the most alarming part is that they don't even notice. They believe everything is fine because that's just how life is, because everyone else does it too. But following the crowd has never been proof of fulfillment. Sometimes it is the clearest sign that we are deeply asleep. To live on autopilot means your mind has stopped asking questions. It no longer wonders why you do what you do, or whether it makes sense, or if it's leading you toward what you truly desire. It merely acts, repeats, and reacts to stimuli like a machine. And there is no pain more silent, yet more destructive than that. The pain of watching your days pass as if they were identical. The pain of losing your sense of wonder. The pain of no longer choosing. Because when you stop choosing, someone else chooses for you. Your environment, your habits, your past story, and little by little, you become a shadow of what you could have been. Autopilot doesn't activate all at once. It's a gradual process. It begins with small surrenders. You stop reading, you stop learning, you stop questioning. You replace silence with noise, purpose with occupation, presence with distraction. And one day, without knowing how, you become an expert at avoiding yourself, filling the day with tasks to avoid feeling the void, watching screens to avoid looking within, seeking entertainment because you can't find meaning. And ironically, from the outside, you look functional. You have a job, fulfill your duties, smile in photos, but inside, the light is off. This way of living is not accidental. It's the consequence of never stopping to ask, am I truly living what I want? Because if you dared to pause, even for a moment, you'd notice the pieces that don't fit, the forgotten dreams, the repressed desires, the part of you screaming to awaken. But since you don't listen, you keep going, like everyone else, as always, until one day your body speaks for you. It stops you with illness, shocks you with loss, forces you to face what you ignored, because the soul cannot tolerate being silenced forever. Living unconsciously is easier, yes, but the easy path never leads to the summit. Comfort does not transform you. Routine does not make you vibrate. What awakens you is what challenges you, what unsettles you, what forces you to face your life with brutal honesty and say, this is not enough. You did not come into this world to repeat days. You came to build something unforgettable, something with your essence, something that makes every night worth closing your eyes and saying, "This day mattered." But for that, you must awaken from your sleep. Deactivate the autopilot. Be present again. Choose again. And that choice is not theoretical, it's practical. It begins in small moments. Are you here, or are you already thinking of what comes next? Are you listening, or just waiting for your turn to speak? Are you working, or merely complying? Are you loving, or just avoiding being alone? The answers to those questions reveal whether you're living or merely existing. And when you start answering them consciously, something changes. Maybe not outside at first, but inside. And that inner transformation changes everything. Because when you awaken, everything you touch comes alive. Awakening is not a sudden event. It's a daily practice. It's the art of reclaiming control over your attention. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is fragmented, scattered, and hijacked by notifications, urgencies, and recycled thoughts, then your life will be too. How many times have you reached the end of the day, unable to recall where your time went? How many times have you eaten without tasting, spoken without listening, worked without truly being present? That is living asleep. And though the body moves, the mind is absent. It doesn't feel, it doesn't direct, it only executes. The danger of autopilot is that it steals your life while making you believe you're accomplishing something. You check boxes, follow schedules, send messages, but you are not creating, not choosing, not feeling that your life belongs to you. It's as if you're driving a car with your eyes closed. You move, yes, but you have no idea where you're going. And worse, you no longer ask, because you've lost the habit of asking the important questions. You replace them with urgencies, with the immediate, with the trap of, "I don't have time to think." Take that time back. Take that power back. Because no one can live your life for you. No one can give you a meaningful existence if you don't build it from within. And that begins with one decision: to be. To be in what you do, in what you say, in what you feel. Not as a mystical exercise, but as an act of personal leadership, as a sacred commitment with yourself. Because a present man is a powerful man, one who acts with clarity, one who doesn't wait for life to strike him before he reacts, one who leads from awareness rather than urgency. Carl Jung taught that presence is not merely being awake, but being conscious of what moves within us. Think for a moment. What part of your life have you been living without truly noticing? What routines do you repeat every day that no longer carry meaning, but you continue simply out of habit? What relationships do you maintain out of fear, inertia, or comfort, even though they no longer help you grow? What dreams have you abandoned because you lack the courage to face them again? Asking these questions hurts, but not asking them hurts more, because it means dragging along a life that no longer represents who you are. When you live on autopilot, you cease to be the author of your story and become a mere actor in someone else's script. You don't have to change everything at once. You only need to start noticing. Notice what you do. Notice how you feel. Notice what ignites you and what dims your light. From there, begin to make small but conscious decisions. Don't live by default. Live by design. Every day is a blank page, and although you cannot rewrite the past, you can decide what kind of day you want to create today. Another day like all the rest, or one that brings you closer to the man you want to become. A day that awakens you. that reactivates you, that reminds you that you are alive. Because that's what living truly means, feeling that what you do has purpose. And that purpose isn't found out there somewhere. It grows within you through presence, intention, and direction. A life without conscious direction is like rowing without a rudder. Much effort, much fatigue, but no real progress. You can stay busy all day and still feel empty. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You can be achieving goals you never even wanted. Because when you live unconsciously, your inner compass fades. You start making decisions not from conviction, but imitation. You dress like the others, think like the others, act like the others, and in doing so, you lose your most valuable treasure, your authenticity, your truth, your center. But here's the good news. It's never too late to awaken. Awakening doesn't depend on age, the past, or circumstances. It depends only on one choice. The choice to look at your life with new eyes, with the courage to recognize what no longer works, what no longer belongs to you, what has been putting your soul to sleep. Because there are things that aren't wrong anymore. They're simply dead. Dead conversations, dead habits, dead goals that once made sense, but now only bind you. Holding on to what no longer vibrates with your essence is the slowest way to die while still alive. To live awake is to have the courage to make space, to release, to empty yourself so you can fill again with what truly matters. And for that, you need silence. Not external silence, that's easy, but inner silence. The one that forces you to stop and ask yourself honestly, what do I really want? Not what others expect of me, not what I'm supposed to do, but what makes me feel alive, useful, connected. And when you ask that question sincerely, it hurts, because it reveals everything you've tolerated, everything you've sold, everything you've ignored just to fit in. But it also frees you, because once you see clearly, you can never go back. Awakening isn't about changing your city, your partner, or your job. It's about changing your inner state, stepping out of unconsciousness and walking no longer by inertia, but with purpose. It's about moving from reaction to choice, from surviving to creating, from merely existing to truly living. And that requires constant awareness, because the world is designed to distract you, to numb you, to keep you busy with the urgent and distant from the important. If you don't protect your consciousness, you'll be swept away by the current of the immediate. But if you guard it and reaffirm it each day, you will reclaim your life. You will once again feel excitement for the smallest things. He will once again look people in the eyes. He will once again breathe with presence. He will once again feel that his actions have meaning. And that is the first symptom of awakening. When every small gesture carries intention. When he rises in the morning and doesn't just start the day, but leads it. When he stops watching the clock and starts watching his purpose. Because an awakened man doesn't live by habit, he lives by decision. And that decision, if sustained, leads to an extraordinary life. Not perfect, not easy, but real, full, and his own. The human mind has an extraordinary ability to adapt, and that can be a blessing or a trap. Because when it adapts too much to the noise, it stops hearing the silence. When it adapts to chaos, it begins to believe that disorder is normal. When it adapts to living on autopilot, it assumes there is no other way to live. And that is the most dangerous part, not realizing that one is asleep. Because if at least he knew, he would do something. But the autopilot is subtle, comfortable, familiar. It convinces him that this grey life is all there is. And it's not. Most men don't live. They manage themselves. They move like another cog in the system, doing what's expected, fulfilling what's required, but never stopping to ask if what they do truly matters. They don't question whether their energy is being spent on what truly counts. So their body is in one place, but their mind is elsewhere. They do one thing while thinking of the next, and that repetition disconnects them day by day, divides them, fragments them, until one day they look in the mirror and no longer know who they are. That disconnection has a high cost, not only emotional, but physical. When you live without direction, your body feels it, because the mind was never designed to operate without purpose. When there is no why, everything becomes heavier. The fatigue isn't from the body, it's from the soul. Stress isn't just about responsibility. It's about the absence of meaning. It's not that you have too much to do. It's that you no longer know why you're doing it. And that uncertainty wears you down, sickens you, breaks you, first inside, then outside. That's why it's essential to return to the basics, to breathe, to observe, to feel, to reconnect. Not with the world, but with yourself, with your values, your goals, your essence. Because when you are truly present, everything changes. The simplest conversation becomes meaningful. The most modest meal becomes sacred. The most ordinary moment becomes memorable. Not because the external has changed, but because you have returned. You have returned to inhabit your own life. And in this hyper-accelerated world, that alone is an act of rebellion. And if this message resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, not just to receive more content, but to reaffirm your choice, to live with intention, to move beyond chronic distraction, to build a life that doesn't just look good on the outside, but feels good on the inside. And I want you to leave a comment answering this question. What daily habit do you want to transform, to stop living on autopilot? Write it down. Read it. Repeat it. Because what you declare with conviction begins to manifest. Remember, you don't need to do everything perfectly. You only need to be present. And presence doesn't require effort. It requires decision. The decision to stop living asleep. The decision to awaken right here, right now. Because this very moment, if truly chosen, can be the first of a completely different life. A real life. A life of purpose, connection, and direction. The life you deserve to live. The life you still have time to create. Living awake is not a trend. It's a necessity. It's what separates those who merely pass through life from those who truly live it. Because time alone does not teach. Only time that is well used, well focused, well lived, transforms. And that is only possible when you are present. Not physically present, anyone can do that, but truly present. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Able to see what you do and know why you do it. Able to feel what you feel without escaping, without numbing, without distracting yourself. That presence is not a luxury. It's the root of fulfillment. And yet, the world pushes you in the opposite direction. It sells you urgency. It screams that you must go faster, higher, further. But it never asks if what you're chasing has meaning for you. It never invites you to stop, to look, to reflect. Because if you did, if you truly asked where you are going, you might realize you're running toward a place you never chose, chasing goals that don't fulfill you, wasting your life on things that don't even matter. And when you see that truth face to face, everything changes. That's where true leadership begins, in the conscious choice of your goals. Not the ones your environment celebrates, not the ones your ego demands, but the ones your soul recognizes as true. Because when you pursue something aligned with your essence, you don't need motivation, only connection. That goal calls you, invites you, awakens you, and the path toward it ceases to be an obligation and becomes a privilege, a training, a daily construction that transforms you into someone new. That only happens when you have the courage to question everything, to look at your calendar and ask, is this really how I want to spend my time? To look at your relationships and ask, am I here by choice or by habit? To look at your thoughts and ask, who is steering my mind, me or my unconscious patterns? The answers may hurt, but behind that pain lies your freedom. Because nothing changes outside until something changes inside. And nothing changes within until you start paying attention. Attention is the doorway to a different life, one with less noise and more clarity, less struggle and more flow, less exhaustion and more fulfillment. But that life doesn't appear on its own. It is built day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. And every time you decide to be present, even for an instant, you break the pattern of autopilot. You take back control. You remember that you are alive. And that remembrance, if you honor it, can change your entire life. Presence is not just a mental exercise. It is a way of standing before life itself. It is the decision not to let the days drag you along, not to allow routine to dull your senses. It is the conscious choice to build a life that feels truly yours, not an echo of others, not a copy of someone else's script, but a genuine reflection of what you value, desire, and believe. Because as Carl Jung would say, living awake is not the hard part. The hard part is staying asleep once you have seen what is possible. You don't need more time. What you need is to awaken to the time you already have. Every single day contains everything necessary for you to grow, evolve, and transform, if you live it with intention. The problem is that most people don't live their day. They endure it, drag it, repeat it, let it slip by as if it were just another one, unaware that each day is unique, unrepeatable, and irreplaceable. How many times have you reached the end of a week without knowing where it went? How many days have simply passed without anything truly happening within you? That isn't a flaw in the calendar. It's a sign that your attention has been hijacked by your phone, by the news, by other people's urgencies, by the automatic thoughts you've been recycling for years. And when your attention is fragmented, your life becomes fragmented too. That's why there are men who, even having everything, still feel empty. It isn't a lack of resources. It's a lack of presence. It's not external scarcity. It's internal disconnection. Because fulfillment isn't achieved by accumulating things. It's built by connecting with what you already possess. And that connection only occurs when you are awake. Being awake is not a permanent state. It's a daily exercise. It's returning again and again to the present, to this moment, this breath, this action. And yes, it's difficult at first because you're used to rushing, multitasking, and constantly thinking about what's next. But when you start to slow down, even for a few minutes, something shifts. You begin to notice, to feel, to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important, between what's noisy and what's true. And that, though it may seem small, is the beginning of profound transformation. To live awake means to have the courage to fully inhabit your own life, not to escape, not to lie to yourself, but to look clearly at what you do, what you allow, and what you postpone. not from guilt, but from responsibility. Because guilt paralyzes you, but responsibility liberates you. It returns the wheel to your hands. It reminds you that no matter what happened before, today you can choose differently. Today you can decide to speak with intention, to eat with awareness, to work with direction, to love with presence, to breathe with gratitude. And none of this requires more time. It only requires consciousness. You may think it's too late, that too much time has passed, that you are too deep in your routine to change. But listen carefully. It is never too late to awaken. The moment you decide to live with awareness, that is the moment you stop being lost. And when you stop being lost, you begin to find yourself, to build yourself, to rise. Because the person who inhabits their life with presence inevitably begins to direct it with power, with clarity, with vision. And that power does not come from the outside. It comes from the simple act of being here, of no longer running away, of no longer existing on autopilot, of choosing each day to live with purpose. And the most beautiful part is that you don't need to do it perfectly. You only need to remember that you are alive, that this moment matters, that every gesture can be sacred if done with awareness, and that every step counts when it is taken awake. Because the life you want isn't waiting somewhere ahead of you. It's hidden in what you do now, in how you do it, in the quality of your presence. And that quality can't be bought. It can't be learned through theory. It must be practiced, cultivated, and honored. Every day, every moment, every decision. A man can spend decades believing he is living when, in truth, he is merely functioning. He wakes up, works, fulfills duties, pays bills, and repeats. He has goals, but no purpose, activities, but no direction, moments of joy, but not a lasting sense of fulfillment. And do you know why? Because he has mistaken being active for being alive. But a machine is active too. A machine also fulfills tasks. The difference between an awakened man and an automatic one is that the first chooses, while the second merely reacts. One creates, the other obeys. And obedience to the autopilot doesn't seem dangerous until the years pass, until he looks back and can't find a single moment that truly defined him, until he realizes the most productive years of his life were lived for others, for systems he never questioned, for needs that were never his. And when that realization arrives, it's not the past that hurts. It's the awareness that comes too late. It's the pain of knowing he slept through the very moments when he should have been most awake, when he should have chosen more firmly, when he should have said no with more courage and yes with more conviction. But you still have time, and that time, though invisible, is your greatest treasure. Not because you can do 1,000 things, but because you can be fully present in whatever you do. You can choose what you want to live and how you want to live it. You can decide which habits to nurture and which to let die. You can stop repeating what numbs you and begin practicing what ignites you. Because living awake is no coincidence. It is a conscious practice of disobeying the automatic and returning to what is essential. And that essential truth is not complicated. It's everywhere. In your breath, in your ability to listen, in your capacity to observe without judgment, in the silence that doesn't disturb but restores order. Yet to reach that place, you must pause. You must choose not to be distracted, not to fill every space, not to rush, because the faster you go, the farther you drift from what truly matters. And what matters doesn't shout, doesn't compete. It waits. It waits for you to be ready to listen. It waits for you to face your life directly, without excuses, without decoration. without recycled stories, just you and your truth. That truth might hurt. It may show you how much time you've wasted, how much potential you've left unused, how many moments you've lost by not being fully present. But it can also set you free, because truth doesn't arrive to punish. It arrives to awaken, to remind you that you can still change your path, that you can still live with awareness, that you can stop pretending and start creating. And when you do, when you return to inhabit yourself fully, everything in your life begins to change. Not because the world is different, but because now you are present, now you choose, now you live. To live consciously is to turn on a light in a room that has been dim for years. At first, it blinds you, unsettles you, exposes the corners you'd rather not see. The decisions you avoided, the conversations you postponed, the dreams you buried beneath excuses. But that initial discomfort is necessary, because you cannot put in order what you refuse to see. You cannot heal what you will not face. You cannot create something new upon a life lived on autopilot. And that is why many never awaken, because they are unwilling to pass through the clarity that discomfort brings. They prefer to remain asleep, because in sleep there is no judgment, no demand, no responsibility, only repetition. But you are not one of them. You have already felt the unease of living without direction. You've already experienced what it means to move quickly but aimlessly. You already know the feeling of reaching nightfall with the sense that the day passed through you instead of you passing through the day. And that doesn't condemn you, it awakens you. Because there is something powerful in having touched the bottom of your own mind. It leaves you without excuses. It forces you to look at the truth without filters. And when a person looks at their life with total honesty, something miraculous happens. They stop negotiating with what matters. They stop postponing the essential. They stop disguising confusion as busyness. Carl Jung would say that at that moment, the self begins to emerge, the true you, the one that was never asleep, only waiting for your return. Because real change does not come from sudden motivation. It is born from exhaustion, from that exact moment when one says, no more distractions, no more noise, no more empty days, no more disconnection. And from that threshold, a different kind of force emerges, a force that doesn't scream, doesn't rush, but never gives up. It is the quiet strength of a man who has decided to return home, to return to his center, to reclaim ownership of his thoughts, his choices, his time, not with perfection, but with intention. Every time you choose presence over haste, you are building a different life. Every time you breathe deeply before reacting, you are cultivating a clearer mind. Every time you observe instead of judging, listen instead of interrupting, give thanks instead of demanding, you are deactivating the autopilot, not through grand gestures, but through small conscious acts repeated with devotion. For consciousness, as Carl Jung taught, is not something that simply appears. It is trained, cultivated, and sustained. And if you sustain it long enough, everything else begins to align. Your relationships, your goals, your energy, your peace. You do not need to find meaning in your entire life tonight. You only need to find meaning in this moment, in this action, in this decision. And if you can connect enough of these moments, lived with intention, you are creating a life lived with purpose. It doesn't matter how many times you have fallen asleep along the way. It doesn't matter how many times you've been lost in the noise. What matters is that today you decided to return. That today you chose to remember who you are. That today, even for a few minutes, You are here, present, aware, alive, and that changes everything. True freedom is not doing whatever you want whenever you want. It is being fully present in whatever you choose to do. It is not needing to escape, not living in a constant wish for the day to end, not looking at the clock in despair, waiting for a pause that never comes. Because a life that constantly seeks escape is not a life. It is mere survival. And no one came into this world just to survive. Not you. You are here to live deeply, meaningfully, with real connection. And that only becomes possible when you stop moving by inertia and start moving by choice. Think about it with brutal honesty. If you had to live this same day over and over again for years, would you be proud of what you are creating? Or would the repetition weigh you down? That question confronts you because it exposes a truth many prefer to ignore. Your life will not magically change with time. It will change when you decide to direct it differently, when you stop waiting for something new and start acting differently with what you already have. Because real transformation happens when a man changes his level of consciousness, not when the world changes in his favor. A mind on autopilot seeks stimulation, seeks distraction, seeks instant gratification, because it cannot hold stillness. But when you train yourself to be present, that emptiness disappears. It is replaced by meaning, by clarity, by a new energy that no longer needs external noise to feel alive. Because now, what you do has weight, purpose, and direction. And that inner shift transforms you entirely. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw routine. You begin to act from intention, not from obligation. And that changes everything. To be present does not mean to move slowly. It means to move awake. It means that even when the pace is fast, your mind stays connected. Your attention remains steady. You keep choosing. You keep leading. And that is the difference between a reactive man and a conscious man. One is dragged by circumstance, the other chooses his direction, regardless of the tide. And that choice, though invisible to others, becomes his strongest foundation. Because when you are connected to your purpose, you no longer need to be pushed. You become unstoppable from within. Perhaps today you still feel the echo of a life half-lived. Perhaps you still carry the exhaustion of years spent surviving instead of feeling. But today is different. Today you have clarity. Today you have tools. Today the truth stands before you. And now all you need is the commitment to remain present. Not once, but every day. Not perfectly, but with intention. Because presence is not a spiritual luxury. It is a vital necessity. It determines whether your life becomes a chain of repetitions or a conscious creation. One worth remembering. One that makes you feel alive, awake, and truly free. One day, you will stop. Perhaps because your body can no longer keep going. Perhaps because life suddenly shows you what was always there and you refuse to see. Or, with some luck, because you chose to awaken before everything collapses. And in that moment, the most honest of all, no amount of money, degrees, or applause will matter. Only one question will remain. Was I truly present in my life? Did I live it? Did I direct it? Or did I simply let it pass me by? Many people die with a full schedule and an empty soul. They spent their best years meeting expectations they never chose, maintaining routines that drained them, pretending enthusiasm where only duty existed. And when they finally realize it, there is no going back. Not because it's too late to change, but because the time they had to build something meaningful slipped away in distractions, in fear, in procrastination, disguised as logic. Do not make that mistake. Do not let your life slip away while believing you're in control. Do not confuse movement with direction. Today is the moment to face everything you've avoided. Today is the moment to silence the noise of the world and ask yourself firmly, am I truly present in my life, or am I just functioning? And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, if it hurts, if it shakes you, then congratulate yourself, because that is the first sign that something inside you wants more, that your soul no longer tolerates living half asleep, that you are ready not only to change your habits, but to change your state, from being asleep to being awake, from reacting to leading, from repeating to creating. And to create doesn't mean starting from scratch. It means being here, now, with eyes wide open, with a clear mind, and with a willing heart. It means directing your attention as if it were your most precious asset, because it is. It means no longer giving away minutes to what doesn't elevate you, no longer lending your energy to what doesn't represent you. It means that every day, no matter what happens outside, you decide to remain inside, in your center, in your truth, in your life. This is the turning point. You don't need to shout it. You don't need to announce it. You just need to sustain it, to decide that from now on, every step will carry awareness, every action, intention, every conversation, presence. And when you do this, when you maintain it, the world may not change immediately, but you will. And because you are the one directing your world, everything else will begin to align. Do not allow your story to end without being written by you. Do not let autopilot drive the greatest masterpiece you possess, your existence. Awaken. Remind yourself every morning that you are here for something greater than mere survival. You are here to live, to feel, to build with open eyes and a burning soul. And that life, the one you've always dreamed of, does not begin tomorrow. It begins today, in this moment, in this breath, in this decision. There are moments when, without any logical explanation, life saves you just in time. An unexpected delay prevents an accident. A sudden intuition makes you change direction, or a silent voice whispers for you to wait. And thanks to that invisible gesture, everything turns out well. Carl Jung said that what we call chance is often synchronicity, the way the unconscious and the universe communicate to protect us. But there is something even deeper. There are people who carry a special gift of divine protection, a silent force that walks beside them and acts even when they are not searching for it. Perhaps you have already felt it. Episodes when you think the worst could have happened, but did not. Or coincidences so precise they seem impossible. When this kind of experience repeats itself with astonishing consistency, it is not just good luck. It could be the sign of a gift of protection your soul has carried from the beginning. Today, we will explore those mysterious traces. We will discover how divine protection manifests itself and why, if you possess this gift, the universe places around you a net of care that defies all logic. Stay with me until the end, because by recognizing these signs, you will be able to understand the greater purpose that opens every time life protects you in an inexplicable way. There comes a moment when your life begins to move with a delicate precision that confuses the mind. It is not mere coincidences or a streak of luck. It is an invisible architecture placing each piece to keep you safe without you even asking. The first sign that you possess a gift of divine protection arises right there, in that mysterious coordination that anticipates risks and neutralizes them before they appear. You may perceive it as a spontaneous decision that changes your path at the last second, an impulse to delay closing the door that prevents an accident, or a pause that keeps an uncomfortable encounter in the past. The extraordinary thing is that you do not feel fear or urgency. Everything happens with a natural flow you only understand afterward. Jung explained that the collective unconscious can connect with what is about to unfold, but in this case, the sensation goes far beyond ordinary intuition. It is as if a greater consciousness were reading the map of your destiny in real time and, without disturbing your free will, redirecting the currents that could harm you. This kind of protection does not always appear in dramatic gestures. It often hides in the ordinary. A traffic light turning red just when you are about to cross, distracted. A message arriving in time to prevent a rushed choice. An idea appearing suddenly that changes the sequence of an ordinary day. Each detail seems minor until you realize the whole picture has kept you safe. When you begin to recognize this pattern, something profound ignites within. You no longer live bound by fear, but with the confidence that there is a protective design accompanying your path. It is a serene security, different from simple hope, a certainty felt in the body as an atmosphere of shelter surrounding you. Perhaps you have already experienced moments like this, that sudden decision that avoided a problem, that delay that ended up saving you from something you later discovered. Observe them closely. They could be the first proofs that within you lies a gift of divine protection, a silent bond the universe has woven so you can arrive whole at each stage of your destiny. When this first sign unfolds with greater strength, its precision becomes almost astonishing. No longer just unexpected changes of direction. It seems as if life itself organizes with a wisdom that anticipates several moves ahead. You begin to notice even your thoughts synchronizing with the movements around you. You think of calling someone, and that person writes to you first. You remember something lost, and it appears in an impossible place. You plan to go out, and a sudden notice makes you wait just long enough to avoid a complicated situation. They are tiny details, but repeated, they form a pattern so coherent it challenges the very idea of chance. Unlike fleeting intuitions, these signals arrive wrapped in calm. There is no shock or anxiety, only a soft clarity, as if reality whispered the best choice without interrupting your freedom. That peace is essential to the protection because it allows you to clearly hear what truly matters. Jung said that when the unconscious aligns with a wider reality, a transcendent function emerges capable of uniting the visible with the invisible. What you experience is precisely that union, your consciousness linked with a greater intelligence, a dialogue preventing you from arriving at the wrong place at the wrong time. Those who possess this gift often discover that even apparent setbacks bring hidden blessings. The meeting cancelled at the last minute, the train you miss, the mistake forcing you to change plans. Each event later reveals itself as the exact piece to keep you safe and lead you to a better opportunity. If you recognize in your life that silent pattern correcting your path effortlessly, understand that it is not mere coincidence. It is a net of divine protection acting through perfect synchronicities, a clear sign that your path is safeguarded and that you possess a special gift to walk in confidence, even in the midst of uncertainty. There is another way this gift of divine protection becomes evident, and it arises from deep within your inner world. It is a living silence appearing even in the midst of noise, a calm not dependent on external circumstances, that acts as an invisible barrier against all that could harm you. Sometimes it manifests as a peace that arrives unexpectedly, just when everything seems to fall apart, while others are unsettled. You feel a benevolent presence stopping the storm inside, giving you clarity to act without rushing. It is not coldness nor indifference. It is a stillness that protects, that lets you see what others cannot, and choose without fear. This sign is not mental, it is felt in the body. The rhythm of the heart grows steady. Breathing becomes deep. Thoughts quiet down, even in moments of real danger. A part of you remains in an inexplicable state of balance, as if a greater force absorbed the storm before it reached you. Jung spoke of a luminous function of the unconscious, a contact with the sacred that feels like the inner presence of something vast and protective. Whoever possesses this gift recognizes in that serenity an unmistakable sign. You are not alone. There is an invisible intelligence accompanying every step. Over time, this protective peace becomes an infallible compass. When a choice pulls you away from your purpose, the calm vanishes. When you take the right path, it returns immediately. It is a guidance system needing no words, because its language is the certainty only felt when the soul walks safely. This second sign acts as a wall of light within the heart, without the need to fight. It keeps you away from places, situations, and ties that could wound you. And at the same time, it opens the inner space for the true opportunity to arrive. Those who experience it discover that authentic protective strength does not always fight. Sometimes it simply dissolves the danger before it forms. When this second sign deepens, its presence becomes unmistakable. It is no longer just a moment of calm amidst noise. It turns into an atmosphere accompanying you everywhere, as if an invisible sphere of light traveled with you. Even on the heaviest days, you notice an inner space no worry can invade. The surprising thing is that this peace does not disconnect you from reality. On the contrary, it makes you sharper. You can act quickly when needed, but without the haste that clouds judgment. The right words emerge at the exact moment. Difficult decisions resolve without hesitation, and what for others is chaos becomes for you a stage where everything finds its place. With time, you discover that this protective serenity is also a warning radar. When something does not belong to your path, an agreement, a journey, even a conversation, that perfect calm suddenly disappears. It is as if an inner door closed, telling you, do not go there. Just a second of attention is enough to understand that the absence of peace is a signal of protection in action. Jung described these experiences as contact with a broader psychic reality, guiding the person toward individuation, the full unfolding of their being. In this gift, that reality expresses itself as a protective field, anticipating what your awareness cannot yet see, while respecting your freedom of choice. Those who live this second sign also notice their environment reacting differently. Tensions dissolve just by entering a room. Conflicts lose intensity. Agitated people lower their tone without knowing why. It is the frequency of your calm creating balance outside of you. If you recognize that peace remaining even when everything shakes, that inner compass turning off or on to guide you, understand that it is not merely self-control. It is the mark of a gift of divine protection, a sign that your life is surrounded by a silent defense, allowing you to walk with confidence through any scenario. When this second sign consolidates within, inner peace ceases to be an occasional state and becomes a true organ of perception. It not only calms, it informs, functioning as a living current, translating into precise sensations what your mind cannot yet name. Imagine you are offered a project that on the surface seems perfect. The details, the people, the benefits, everything looks aligned, but as you approach that decision, something inside grows opaque, as if a subtle mist covered the clarity of your awareness. There is no argument to explain it. Simply, the usual serenity is absent. Whoever possesses this gift learns to recognize that strange silence as a sacred no, a soft but categorical warning, pulling them away from paths that could mislead or harm them. The same happens in moments of imminent danger. You may be about to start a journey, sign an agreement, enter a place, and suddenly a heavy stillness stops your impulse. If you decide to delay, soon you discover that this pause spared you from a problem. Sometimes the risk is visible, an accident, a loss. Other times, it is just a detour that would have drained your time and energy. In any case, the signal works as a wall of light. It does not confront. It does not shout. It simply closes the door to what is not meant for you. As you grow familiar with this language, you realize it does not depend on external circumstances. You can be in the middle of a crowd and still feel that protective field, as if you were the only inhabitant of a secret space. Even in tense environments, difficult meetings, arguments, places of heavy pressure, that peace acts like a shield that absorbs the emotional impact, keeping your energy intact. Carl Jung spoke of the importance of integrating the unconscious to reach the self, that point where personality and the spiritual plane are unified. The serenity of this second sign is precisely the living manifestation of that self, an unshakable center that remains balanced while the surface of life changes its rhythm. It is not mere self-control. It is a dimension of being already participating in the eternal. With time, this continuous state influences how the world responds to you. Restless people find in your presence an invitation to lower their voice. Hostile environments soften the moment you arrive. Even ongoing arguments lose intensity when you step in, sometimes without saying a word. It is as if the frequency of your calm sent out a wave of reordering, making reality slowly adopt the balance that dwells within you. There are days when this protection feels almost physical. You might describe it as a soft halo of energy surrounding you, or as a warmth in the chest, a quiet expansion that recalls the presence of something infinitely benevolent. Whoever has felt this safeguard knows it is not their own doing. Peace has density, almost weight, and it marks the difference between reacting with fear or acting with clarity. It also transforms your relationship with time. The unforeseen events that used to upset you, a delay, a cancellation, now appear as providential adjustments. Instead of irritation, a curious trust arises. If this happens, it means something better is being prepared. That attitude, born of repeated experience, opens space for unexpected opportunities that only arrive when you stop fighting the flow of life. Those who cultivate this second sign discover that their true strength is neither speed nor aggressive defense, but the ability to remain at the center of themselves. There, in that still point, divine protection operates more effectively than any calculated plan. What once demanded effort or strategy now resolves itself through the sole force of inner coherence. If in your own experience you recognize moments when peace became both guide and shield, when sudden stillness changed critical decisions, or when your mere presence calmed tense situations, understand that you are living the fullness of this second sign. It is the evidence that you carry a gift of divine protection, a silent alliance with the force that sustains the universe, able to guard every one of your steps, while your destiny unfolds with perfect accuracy. The third sign that you carry a gift of divine protection appears in an even more mysterious way. It is the capacity to perceive symbolic warnings in dreams and states of inspiration, a prophetic language of the soul that anticipates events. Perhaps you have noticed that suddenly your dreams acquire extraordinary clarity. Scenes that once vanished on waking remain engraved with precision, as if you had lived a real episode. These are not ordinary dreams. They contain powerful symbols, landscapes of intense luminosity, dialogues remembered word for word, which days or weeks later coincide with actual events. Sometimes the warning appears as simple but insistent images: a bridge collapsing, a road that diverts, an object catching fire. Other times, as direct messages, a brief phrase that resonates with power, a name that appears with clarity. The essential point is that when these symbols return to memory, they bring with them a sense of certainty. You do not need complicated interpretation. You know they are warning or guiding you. This gift is not limited to the night. During the day, fleeting visions or sudden intuitions may arise while you read, converse, or walk. It feels as if a part of you were reading reality at a higher level, sending signals at the exact moment. What distinguishes these perceptions from a passing thought is the emotional power with which they impose themselves, accompanied by a peace that confirms their authenticity. Carl Jung devoted much of his work to studying dreams as messengers of the collective unconscious, a network of meanings uniting all souls. In those who carry this gift, that network does not simply reveal the repressed, but functions as a system of protection, anticipating situations, suggesting decisions, even diverting dangers before they materialize. With time, you learn to dialogue with these symbols. You begin to record your dreams, to recognize recurring signs, and to notice the precision with which the warnings are fulfilled. Each experience strengthens your trust that a divine intelligence is communicating with you through the language your soul understands best. Images, metaphors, visions. This kind of protection does not replace your choices, it illuminates them. It gives you the chance to act consciously before risk appears, or to be in the right place at the exact time when a decisive opportunity is about to unfold. Those who live this third sign feel their dream life and waking life merge into a single continuum. The night ceases to be passive rest and becomes a territory of revelation and protection, a space where divine guardianship works while you sleep, handing you each dawn the keys to walk safely. When this third sign deepens, dreams and inner visions cease to be mere nocturnal episodes and become an authentic territory of revelation, a space where the universe and your unconscious converse in a language of images, symbols, and emotions that protect and guide you. You begin to notice that certain symbols repeat with unsettling precision. It may be an animal that appears again and again, a luminous landscape, a door of a specific color, or a melody you hear in different dreams. At first, they seem like coincidences, but over time, you perceive that each appearance carries a very concrete message. A bridge opening may announce a safe opportunity. A staircase collapsing may warn of a path you must not follow. These signs are exact alerts designed for your consciousness to recognize them, even in waking state. On awakening, the information does not dissipate like an ordinary dream. It remains anchored in memory, accompanied by a sense of urgency or peace, depending on the nature of the message. Many times, only after several days, you discover that symbol corresponded to a real situation about to manifest. The accuracy is so striking, you cannot attribute it to chance alone. Gradually, the boundary between night and day becomes more permeable as you go about daily activities. Brief visions or sudden images break through strongly. They may appear in the middle of a conversation, while crossing a street, even at the moment of falling asleep. They are not distractions, but flashes of warning or confirmation arriving exactly when needed. The most astonishing thing is that this flow of symbols works in synchrony with your outer life. If a decision is not right, dreams may become confusing or disturbing. If you are aligned with destiny, dream imagery fills with light, vivid colors, and harmony, offering inner confirmation beyond words. Carl Jung considered dreams a bridge between the individual psyche and the collective unconscious, that ocean of meanings connecting all humanity. When you carry a gift of divine protection, that bridge does not merely reveal archetypes, it functions as a network of early alert, guarding your integrity and preparing you for encounters or decisive choices. Another dimension of this sign is protective creative inspiration. Sometimes protection is not only avoiding danger, but opening new opportunities. A dream may suggest a project, a work, an idea that acts as escape and growth just when an external situation threatened to trap you. Furthermore, the emotional intensity of these experiences is unique. Unlike ordinary dreams, these messages leave such a vivid trace that you can recall minimal details, colors, sounds, exact words weeks or months later, as if you had lived a physical event. Whoever recognizes this third sign also discovers the importance of honoring and recording these messages. Keeping a dream journal, meditating upon waking, dedicating minutes to reviewing the images. Everything helps make the dialogue between your soul and divine protection ever clearer and constant. With time, certainty becomes absolute. You realize your inner world is a sanctuary of real communication with the sacred, a space where divine guardianship works actively to safeguard your life and guide you toward the opportunities destined for you. This third sign reminds you that even while you sleep, your destiny is not left unprotected. Each luminous dream, each insistent symbol, each vision later fulfilled is proof that a greater intelligence watches over your path, keeping you safe and leading you step by step toward the purpose your soul came to fulfill. The fourth sign that you carry a gift of divine protection manifests in a very subtle dimension of daily life, an innate ability to deflect harmful energies before they reach you, as if your mere presence created an invisible field of immunity. It is not about raising barriers or practicing mental defenses. It is something deeper, a natural magnetism that keeps away whatever does not resonate with your vibration. Conflicting people withdraw without apparent reason. Tense situations dissolve before touching you. Projects that could entangle you stop without your intervention. You may notice it in everyday encounters. An appointment that seemed inevitable cancels unexpectedly. A group reorganizes in a way that keeps you out of a toxic environment, or a complicated connection loses strength until it disappears. None of this happens with drama. It simply moves away as if life were cleaning on your behalf. Jung spoke of protective synchronicity, events that seem accidental but act as guardians of destiny. When you carry this gift, that synchronicity becomes constant. Everything that could drain you meets an invisible obstacle and diverts in time. The most interesting part is you do not need to remain in constant alert. This protection works while you sleep, while you work, even when you forget to think of it. It is a frequency surrounding you like a natural atmosphere, creating a space where energetic attacks, conflicts, and negative influences lose force before reaching you. Sometimes it manifests as an unexpected change in the physical environment, perhaps a noise that makes you leave a room seconds before a minor accident, or a temporary failure preventing you from taking transport at the wrong moment. These twists may seem inconvenient at first, but later you realize they were exact in sparing you from harm. Those who carry this sign gradually experience a growing inner freedom. They no longer depend on constant vigilance or control. They trust that a silent intelligence is caring for their path, a shield of light that operates even in the simplest details. If you recognize in your story this ability for what is not meant for you to drift away without conflict, you may be living the fourth sign, the gift of divine protection that requires no struggle. Its strength lies in a vibration so pure that anything dissonant dissolves before it even approaches. When this fourth sign unfolds fully, you begin to notice that not only do difficult people step aside, but every situation with harmful potential reorganizes itself in your favor. It is as though your destiny carried within it an invisible navigation system that corrects the course of any circumstance that could divert you from your purpose. One day, for instance, you may discover that a project that seemed essential suddenly freezes without explanation. Perhaps in that moment, you feel frustration, but with time, you realize that apparent setback spared you from a commitment that would have drained your energy. In other moments, a simple delay, a cancelled train, or a postponed meeting becomes the exact safeguard you required, shielding you from accidents, material losses, or unhealthy alliances. This gift is not a power to control the world, but a frequency that brings it into harmony. As you learn to live within that vibration, you notice the spaces around you change in quality. A room filled with tension grows lighter when you enter. A group on the verge of conflict finds an unexpectedly conciliatory tone. It is as if the mere coherence of your presence rearranged the invisible dynamics of reality. Carl Jung spoke of luminous energy, that force arising when the unconscious connects with the sacred. Whoever lives this fourth sign carries that energy as a protective field, a halo that shapes circumstances. It is not about domination, but about radiating a silent order that makes chaos impossible. Over time, you perceive that this gift even alters how others perceive you. People with unclear intentions may feel uneasy in your presence without knowing why, while those vibrating in resonance with you experience a natural attraction. The result is a spontaneous selection. Authentic bonds strengthen, while those that could exhaust you lose interest until they fade. Another fascinating dimension of this sign is its capacity for silent prevention. Often, when something unsuitable is about to occur, life deploys small detours that only later you understand. You may forget an important object that forces you to return home, or an unexpected message shifts your schedule. These are minimal gestures that, when seen in perspective, fit precisely into a strategy of protection. The most revealing aspect is that this mechanism acts even when your conscious mind does not request help. You do not need to pray at every instant, nor remain constantly alert. The protective field that emanates from your gift works ceaselessly, like an atmosphere surrounding every step of your path. On the inside, this process awakens a new relationship with trust. You stop living in fear of danger because you learn that what is not meant for you cannot remain in your reality. That certainty allows you to make decisions with courage, to embark on risky projects, to begin journeys, knowing that the same force that orders the universe accompanies you at all times. You also discover that your presence triggers movements of balance beyond your personal life. Tense meetings transform without a word from you. Friendships once distanced come together again in peace. Family conflicts dissolve after a brief encounter. These are not theatrical miracles, but natural adjustments arising from the field of harmony you radiate. If you recognize in your experience that difficulties deactivate effortlessly, that harmful influences withdraw on their own, and that genuine opportunities find their way to you, you are witnessing the essence of this fourth sign. It is proof that you carry a gift of divine protection operating permanently, a subtle alliance between your energy and a greater intelligence that keeps your destiny safe as you move toward the fullness of your purpose. The fifth sign that you possess a gift of divine protection emerges in the most intimate and transformative territory. The inner certainty that your life is guided by a greater purpose, a conviction that does not depend on external evidence and keeps you at peace even in the most uncertain moments. Unlike previous signs, this one does not manifest in visible coincidences or immediate changes in your environment. It is a profound knowing dwelling at the center of your being. A silent voice reminding you, even in difficulty, that everything happening to you, including the hardest trials, forms part of a perfect plan of protection and growth. You may feel it as a serene strength that does not break. While circumstances shift around you, a clear conviction ignites within. I am on the path that belongs to me. It does not matter if you cannot yet see the exit. You know each step, even the seemingly mistaken one, is used by a higher intelligence to guide you toward the destiny your soul has chosen. This certainty transforms your relationship with fear. The anxieties that once paralyzed you turn into simple signals of adjustment. You no longer ask if life supports you. You live with the trust that divine protection acts within you, not only around you. It is a security that does not depend on immediate results, because its root lies in communion with something eternal. Carl Jung described this state as the union with the self, the sacred nucleus of personality that connects with the whole. When you experience this fifth sign, you feel that center fully awakened. It is not a philosophical idea, but a physical experience, a gentle warmth in the heart, an expansion of breath, the impression that every heartbeat confirms an indestructible alliance between your life and the divine plan. From here onward, your way of making decisions changes radically. You no longer choose from the fear of loss, but from listening to that inner voice that always indicates the next step. Even apparent failures become part of the journey because you know no real mistake can remove you from what is destined for you. This level of trust creates an aura of blessing that others perceive. Those who approach you feel calmer, find guidance without needing long explanations, and often remark that something in your presence gives them strength. It is the manifestation that the protection within you expands and reaches those who share your space. Whoever lives this fifth sign understands that life itself is an act of divine protection. Every door that opens, every delay, every unexpected turn belongs to a design that not only avoids harm, but leads to the complete fulfillment of the soul's mission. There is no chance. Everything is cared for, even silences, even what is not yet visible. If you recognize within yourself that certainty of constant guidance, that peace sustained through all seasons of life, then you are experiencing the highest confirmation of this gift, the fusion between your will and the will of a loving intelligence, accompanying every step of your existence. In the course of these 5 signs, one truth is revealed. When you possess a gift of divine protection, your entire life becomes a work meticulously guided. From the first spark, that higher care expresses itself as an invisible architecture arranging every step before you take it. Everything begins with a secret coordination between your inner being and the unfolding of events. A call arriving at the perfect instant, a delay that saves you, an unexpected phrase that leads you toward a safer path. Nothing is chance. Your unconscious seems to dialogue with a greater intelligence that diverts risks and places each piece so you remain safe. There are no shocks. Everything happens with the naturalness of the inevitable. As this experience becomes familiar, a second dimension reveals itself. You discover within yourself a deep peace not dependent on circumstances. While the environment trembles, a silent center remains intact. It is a stillness that protects you from within, a language of certainty guiding you without words. When something does not belong to your destiny, that calm fades. When you choose rightly, it immediately returns. You learn to trust that invisible compass that lights or withdraws to indicate the safe direction. And again, you confirm with facts that this peace is more than self-control. It is a wall of light keeping you whole. The third manifestation of this gift reveals itself in dreams, visions, and intuitive flashes announcing what is to come. Suddenly, your nights fill with symbols remembered with precision. Bridges, paths, voices repeating until reality takes shape. These are not random images, but messages warning, protecting, and often guiding you toward opportunities you never imagined. This same inspiration can burst into waking life as a clear thought, a confirmed premonition, or a warning arriving just in time. The nocturnal and the diurnal become one territory of guidance and care. Then arises a natural capacity to divert harmful energies before they draw near. You need not fight or confront. People or situations that could hurt you simply dissolve. Meetings are postponed, projects halted, connections that completed their cycle drift away without conflict. What is not meant for you loses strength and falls aside under its own weight. This invisible cleansing creates a space of purity where authentic relationships thrive and true opportunities take root. Finally, this gift culminates in an inner certainty impossible to break. Beyond visible signs, you feel your life is upheld by a greater purpose. Every experience, even the hardest, integrates into a plan that protects and guides. Fears lose their power, decisions arise from trust, and even apparent mistakes reveal themselves as exact movements of a superior intelligence. It is the ultimate confirmation that you do not walk alone. Divine protection not only surrounds you, but dwells in the deepest part of your being, accompanying every heartbeat of your destiny. These 5 intertwined signs show how divine protection is not an isolated episode, but a continuous process acting across all levels: external events, emotions, dreams, relationships, and consciousness itself. To recognize them is to begin living with the certainty that the universe watches over you in every moment, leading you with loving precision toward the fullness you were created for. We have reached the end of this profound journey exploring the 5 signs of the gift of divine protection. If as you listened, you felt these experiences speak of you, trust that intuition. It is no accident you have found this message. Every word resonating within you belongs to the same current that accompanies, guides, and guards you. Allow these revelations to continue maturing in your heart. Return to them whenever needed. Let their echo accompany you in silence. And above all, walk with the certainty that you are never alone. The force protecting your life is already active, even in moments when it seems nothing is happening. If any of these signs beat within your own story, share it in the comments. Your testimony may be the confirmation another soul requires to recognize the presence of their own divine protection. Spiritual awakening is exactly that, an unrelenting light that illuminates the darkness within us and around us. This transformation does not simply reveal the truth of who we are. It also exposes the hidden dynamics that shaped our relationships. Imagine your life as a musical instrument. For years, your strings vibrated at a certain frequency, playing a melody that harmonized with the people around you. But with awakening, your tone shifts, your vibrations rise, and suddenly, those strings that once seemed in harmony begin to sound dissonant. The sensation is confusing and often painful. Relationships that once felt safe can become spaces of conflict. This happens because as you reconnect with your essence, patterns such as emotional dependency or manipulation, once invisible, become intolerable. And it is in that moment that the most difficult question emerges. How do you remain faithful to your new authenticity, even if it means losing those you love? The truth is that this rupture is necessary. What appears to be loss is actually cleansing. Space is being created for something new, something aligned with who you are becoming. In this journey, you will discover how this process transforms not only your relationships, but also your relationship with yourself. Prepare to understand why, despite its challenges, this path is the greatest gift you can offer your soul. Spiritual awakening is not an isolated event. It is like opening the doors of a mansion you never knew you inhabited, only to find that its corridors are filled with shadows, reflecting parts of yourself. As you walk those halls, you realize that what once felt secure and familiar, your relationships, your beliefs, your routines, begins to collapse. And this is no accident. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human psyche, taught that individuation requires confrontation with the unconscious. For him, the soul's journey is always a descent before it becomes an ascent. In that descent, you recognize that many people around you were not connected to your essence, but to your masks, the very masks that awakening now demands you remove. Picture a moth drawn to artificial lights all its life. The glow of the lamp seemed the only true beacon, but once it discovers the sun, everything changes. The moth can no longer find satisfaction in the lamps that once fascinated it. Likewise, awakening reveals an inner light so radiant that the artificial glow of superficial dynamics becomes unbearable. This process can be devastating, for it exposes patterns you never noticed. Perhaps that comfortable relationship was built on dependency, where you sought external validation rather than facing your own insecurity. Or perhaps those friendships thrived only because you remained on the same frequency, never questioning, never growing. When your vibration changes, those connections short-circuit. Jung also said that what we deny within ourselves finds expression in the outside world. Awakening brings this truth to the surface with brutal clarity. It reveals not only the wounds, but also how many of your relationships are mirrors of them. That friend who makes you feel inferior, that partner who silences you, that relative who feeds your fears. All these connections reflect what you must heal within yourself. And then comes the choice. Will you keep holding on to distorted mirrors, or will you let them go and finally see with clarity? This is where many hesitate, for letting go is never easy. What do you do when these relationships carry years of history? How do you accept that some people are simply not ready to walk beside you in your evolution? Imagine tuning the strings of a guitar. Before, they were slightly out of tune, but you never noticed. Now, as you carefully adjust each one, you discover that some strings can no longer keep the melody you are creating. This does not mean the guitar is broken. It means some strings need to be adjusted or replaced. The same is true of spiritual awakening. You are not broken. The relationships that fall away are not punishment or mistake. They are reflections of the new music you are composing. And that music, even if it brings moments of solitude, is a call towards something greater. Still, solitude often feels like an unbearable void. You ask yourself, was I wrong to transform? Should I have remained the same just to preserve the comfort of those connections? The answer lies in the process itself. Just as a field must be cleared of weeds to flourish, your life too requires space for new growth. This cleansing is often painful. Relationships that once felt eternal begin to feel hollow. Promises of eternal friendship or love sound false in the light of your new perception. But remember, what collapses are the foundations built upon an older version of you. And here is the beauty of the process. With every relationship that dissolves, a new possibility appears. New people enter your life, resonating with your higher frequency. Connections based on authenticity and respect emerge, as though they had been waiting for the right moment to blossom. Jung said that authenticity is the highest achievement of the self, and that is precisely what awakening demands. It calls you to be authentic, even if it means facing judgment, rejection, and solitude. Have you noticed how awakening does not tolerate falseness? It shines into the darkest corners of your psyche and demands honesty. In that light, the hidden dynamics of your relationships become impossible to ignore. That friend who has always used your vulnerability against you, or that partner who tries to control every aspect of your life, now appear with uncomfortable clarity. You now stand at a crossroads. Continuing on this path of expansion means accepting that some people are not ready to accompany you. But what if I told you this is not the end? The emptiness you feel is only the prelude to something much greater. Stay with me, and you will see how this process, though painful, is the greatest gift you can give yourself. You will learn to navigate these endings with grace and courage, and to create fertile ground for authentic connections to flourish. The path of awakening often feels like a dance between light and shadow. There are moments of ecstasy, when you sense you are connected to something vast, transcendent. But there are also moments of deep sorrow, when you realize not everyone can or wishes to dance with you. Letting go is like walking across a rope bridge, swinging over an abyss. On one side lies the comfort of old relationships, even if marked by manipulation or dependence. On the other side lies the promise of a new beginning, a place where you can be fully authentic and vibrate in harmony with your true self. And Carl Jung reminded us, no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That act of confronting darkness, both internal and external, transforms awakening into a revolution. And relationships, often mirrors of our wounds, become catalysts for that confrontation. Think of the friend who reinforced your insecurities with subtle remarks, or the relative who kept reminding you of past mistakes as though they were permanent tattoos. During awakening, these dynamics become unbearable. You begin to question why you tolerated them for so long, and realize they no longer have meaning in your new reality. Yet here lies the dilemma. Leaving these relationships often brings overwhelming guilt. You wonder if you are being selfish, if you are abandoning those who depend on you emotionally. But here is the truth. You must remember that awakening is not an act of selfishness, but of integrity. It is not about rejecting others. It is about honoring who you are becoming. Imagine your life as an old house. Over the years, furniture and objects pile up, some broken, others covered in dust. When you decide to restore that house, you see that you must let go of everything that no longer serves, even if it holds sentimental value. You understand that to create a welcoming and functional space, you must release the old to allow the new. Spiritual awakening is that restoration. The relationships that no longer resonate with your frequency are like that old furniture. They still carry meaning, but they no longer belong in the home of your new life. And that cleansing, though painful, does not happen only outside, it happens within. Spiritual awakening forces you to turn inward and confront behavioral patterns that contributed to dysfunctional dynamics. You begin to notice how your need for approval led you to accept less than you deserved, or how your fear of rejection kept you trapped in relationships that never allowed you to grow. And here lies the beauty of the process. When you release those chains, you do not only create space for new connections, but you also strengthen the most important relationship of all, the one with yourself. Carl Jung said that loneliness does not come from the absence of people around us, but from the inability to communicate the things that matter most. During awakening, you may feel isolated, not because you are truly alone, but because your new perspectives seem incomprehensible to those still entangled in old narratives. Yet this period of solitude is not punishment. It is an invitation to explore your inner world, to cultivate a garden where your authenticity and truth can bloom. And when that garden flourishes, it draws people who resonate with your new frequency, connections that are deep, authentic, and aligned with who you are becoming. However, this path is not linear. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when you miss the past, even though you know it no longer serves you. These moments are part of the process, reminding you that transformation is not instant, but a continuous journey of growth and evolution. And what if I told you that every relationship you lose along the way is replaced by something far greater? That by releasing control, you allow the universe to bring people and experiences aligned with your higher purpose. Stay with me, because we are going to explore tools and practices that will help you navigate this journey with more clarity and confidence. We will discover how to transform loneliness into self-sufficiency and how to create an energetic field so strong that it attracts only what is true and aligned with your new reality. As you begin to move toward this new version of yourself, something curious happens. People you never imagined would leave suddenly disappear from your life, almost as if carried away by an invisible current. And those with whom you once shared a deep bond may start to feel distant, even incompatible with who you are becoming. This phenomenon is not random. It is the direct result of vibrational changes that occur during spiritual awakening. When your energetic frequency rises, you literally disconnect from lower vibrations. It is like tuning into a new radio station. The old one has not vanished, but it is no longer audible to you. Jung described this process as a movement toward wholeness, reminding us that vision becomes clear only when you can look into your heart. He said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." And by looking inward, you begin to see how many of the bonds sustaining your life were built on projections, on versions of yourself that no longer exist. But what happens to relationships that withstand this transformation? Some bonds, especially those rooted in genuine love and mutual respect, undergo restructuring. It is like tuning the strings of an instrument to play a new melody. These relationships, although challenging, can evolve into something deeper and more meaningful because they now align with your authenticity. On the other hand, connections that cannot adapt begin to dissolve. This may be painful, yet it is also liberating. Imagine carrying a backpack full of stones during a long journey. At first, you hardly notice the weight because you are used to carrying it. But as you progress, it becomes clear that those stones are slowing you down. Letting them go is not cruelty. It is self-compassion. This is where many face the dilemma of attachment. You may feel that leaving a relationship behind means betrayal or failure, but the truth is that spiritual evolution demands courage. The courage to recognize that loyalty to yourself must always come first. And what about solitude? For many, it appears as the inevitable shadow of awakening. The disconnection from close people can bring emptiness, an uncomfortable silence that echoes in the soul. Yet that silence is not your enemy. It is a portal, a space where you can reconnect with forgotten or neglected parts of yourself. This is the moment when you begin to discover the power of solitude. Unlike loneliness, solitude is a state of wholeness with yourself. It is the realization that your own company is enough, that your validation no longer needs to come from the outside. This state makes it possible to attract more aligned relationships in the future because you are no longer seeking to fill a void, but to share inner abundance. In this space, you begin to perceive the gifts of awakening. Your emotions become clearer, your intuition sharper, your vision of the world more expansive. What once seemed like an irreparable loss reveals itself as an exchange, the old version of yourself, with all its limitations, for a version deeply connected to your essence. And then something magical happens. Just as a garden flourishes after being cleansed, your life begins to attract new people, opportunities, and experiences resonating with your higher vibration. Relationships based on reciprocity, respect, and authenticity appear as unexpected gifts, carrying with them the sense that everything is finally falling into place. The journey continues, bringing new challenges and discoveries, but now with a crucial difference. You are stronger, more centered, and more aligned with who you truly are. As this transformation deepens, you realize that spiritual awakening is not merely a journey of self-discovery, but a process of death and rebirth. Death of old patterns, limiting beliefs, and often relationships that once seemed unbreakable. Rebirth of an authenticity long buried under conditioning and external expectations. Jung said that the encounter with the shadow is the narrow path to the self, and part of that encounter involves recognizing that many relationships you once cultivated were built on unstable foundations, not on who you truly are, but on who you thought you needed to be in order to be accepted or loved. This clash between who you were and who you are becoming is like an earthquake exposing hidden cracks. These cracks manifest in many ways. A friend who once seemed harmless now reveals patterns of envy or sabotage. A romantic relationship that once provided emotional security begins to feel suffocating because it relies on control or codependence. Even family ties can feel fragile as you realize some were rooted in fear or obligation rather than genuine love. Such revelations can bring deep pain, as if the ground beneath you were crumbling. But this pain is not punishment, it is purification. Just as gold is refined by fire to reveal its purest form, awakening uses these ruptures to uncover the essence of who you are. There will be moments when the journey feels endless. You may wonder why you must lose so much to gain so little. But the truth is that every loss is a release of something misaligned with your higher purpose. Each relationship that dissolves creates space for something more authentic and meaningful. Imagine crossing a river. You must release the stones you carry, for they only pull you under. At first, letting go seems impossible, because those stones represent stories, memories, and bonds you learn to value. But as you release them, you realize you can swim more freely, more swiftly, with less effort. And on the other side, something unexpected happens. You meet others who have also released their stones. They do not demand that you return to retrieve what you left behind. They do not try to mold or trap you in old narratives. Instead, they meet you where you are, accepting who you are now, without judgment or expectation. That is the power of aligned relationships. They are built not on need, but on choice, not on fear of loneliness, but on the desire to share a journey. And though rare, such connections carry a profound and transformative impact. Yet to reach this point, patience is essential. Patience with yourself and with the process. Awakening is not a single event, but a series of waves, each carrying you deeper into your truth. Every wave may at first appear overwhelming, but with time reveals itself as an indispensable lesson. Jung reminds us that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and part of that privilege is accepting that not everyone can accompany you on this path. This does not mean you love them less. It means you now understand that true love begins with self-love. As you continue walking this path, a sense of clarity emerges. You recognize that losses do not define you. What defines you is how you choose to respond to them. You understand that solitude is not punishment, but preparation. And most importantly, you realize that awakening is ultimately a reconnection with yourself, with your essence, and with the universe surrounding you. As you open yourself to this new reality, life responds. What once seemed to be falling apart was in truth the universe rearranging everything so you could live in alignment with your deepest truth. And within that truth, you find not only peace, but also the freedom to be exactly who you were born to be. As you walk further into this journey, every step reveals a new horizon. What was once familiar and safe now feels distant, almost like the memory of another life. It is within this contrast between the old and the new that you begin to perceive the magnitude of your transformation. It is not merely about changing who you are, it is about remembering who you have always been before you were shaped by external expectations. Spiritual awakening works like a lens that sharpens the focus of your perception. Relationships and situations that once seemed obvious now appear in high definition, with all the details you previously ignored. You begin to see not only the people around you, but also yourself with greater honesty and without filters. This honesty can be unsettling because it exposes the fragile foundations that sustained many of your connections. At other times, awakening arrives like a storm. It does not ask permission. It does not wait for the right moment. It simply appears, shaking everything that is not aligned. That relationship that seemed eternal now dissolves like sand, slipping through your fingers. And as painful as this may feel, there is a profound wisdom in the process. It is not destruction by accident, but intentional reconstruction. Carl Jung, in his wisdom, reminds us that what you resist persists, and resisting these changes only prolongs suffering. When you surrender to the flow, allowing what must leave to go, you discover an unexpected lightness. Life suddenly ceases to be a battle against the current and becomes a dance with it. At times, that dance feels lonely. You find yourself questioning why others cannot see what is now so obvious to you. Yet that difference in perspective is not a mistake, but a natural consequence of your growth. Just like a plant reaching toward light, you are moving beyond what once confined you. And then something extraordinary begins to unfold. The more you align with your authenticity, the more magnetic your presence becomes, not because you are trying to attract anyone, but because your elevated vibration does so effortlessly. Those who resonate with your energy appear, while those unprepared to walk beside you drift away. This new reality, however, requires discernment. Not everything that seems aligned at first is genuine. Here, your intuition, now sharper, becomes your greatest ally. You learn to recognize what is true and to release what is not, even if it means letting go of something that once appeared promising. There are also moments of deep introspection when you begin to realize not everything that collapsed was caused by others. Some of it was held together by your own choices, your own wounds. This understanding may be painful, yet it is also incredibly liberating, because by accepting responsibility, you reclaim your power. Think of awakening as a great spiritual cleansing. At first, the chaos appears greater than before, but with time, the cleared space begins to reveal beauty hidden beneath layers of disorder. Every piece you choose to keep or release contributes to shaping a life more aligned with who you truly are. And with that arises a sense of gratitude, not for having lost connections or endured challenges, but for everything those experiences taught you. You realize that every person who crossed your path, even those who brought pain, played an essential role in your evolution. As silence settles into your life, it ceases to be a frightening emptiness and becomes fertile ground for new creations. You start hearing your own voice more clearly, feeling your own energy more intensely. It is as though the world around you is reorganizing itself to reflect the new harmony you are cultivating within. This process is by no means linear. There are unexpected turns, moments of doubt, and relapses into old patterns. But every time you choose to move forward, even in uncertainty, you take a step toward freedom. The freedom to be who you truly are, without needing to fit molds that no longer serve you. And then what once seemed endless chaos begins to make sense. Not because all the answers are clear, but because you have learned to trust the process. With every rupture, with every reconstruction, you move closer to your essence, to your light. And it is that light which illuminates the path for the next stages of your journey. Have you ever felt the world around you shifting, even though everything looks the same? As if suddenly, conversations that once comforted you sound empty, or places that felt safe become unbearable. This is how spiritual awakening begins to transform not only your perception, but also what you accept as truth in your life. The process is like removing glasses after years. At first, the brightness may feel blinding, even uncomfortable, but soon you realize you are seeing the world with more clarity than ever. And that clarity, though liberating, can bring profound emotional challenges. Think about the most important relationships in your life. How many were built on the need to belong, the search for approval, or the fear of being alone? Those bonds, though once meaningful, now reveal themselves as silent contracts you accepted unconsciously. Contracts demanding you diminish yourself, adapt, or avoid being who you truly are, just to maintain peace. Carl Jung said there is no awakening of consciousness without pain, and it is precisely this pain that arises when you realize some of those contracts must be broken, not because you no longer love those people, but because love for yourself has finally become a priority. Breaking such patterns can be terrifying. It is like standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into the vast unknown below. The natural impulse is to cling to what is familiar, even if that means carrying the weight of relationships that no longer make sense. But spiritual awakening invites you to jump, not to fall, but to discover you can fly. That leap does not mean abandonment. It means transformation. It means looking at those relationships with compassion, recognizing the role they played in your life, but also accepting they do not need to walk with you any longer. You realize you are not rejecting those people. You are choosing a path that reflects your truth. And in that process, something powerful happens. You begin freeing yourself from expectations that were never truly yours. The need to please, to prove your worth, or to avoid conflict dissolves, replaced by a peace that rises from within. A peace that depends not on external validation, but on the certainty that you are living in coherence with who you really are. This does not mean the path will be easy. There will be moments of nostalgia when you remember the good times shared with people who now feel distant. Yet nostalgia does not need to be a burden. It can remind you that true love does not disappear even when circumstances change. And so, as you continue moving forward, you begin attracting new connections. People not interested in who you were, but in who you are becoming. Relationships that do not require constant effort to sustain harmony because they flow naturally with your energy. Imagine this as a magnetic field. The more you align with your essence, the stronger this field becomes. It repels what is not in tune and attracts what is. Not because you try to control who enters or leaves your life, but because your vibration speaks for itself. This field also protects you, preventing old patterns from dragging you back, because now you recognize the signs of when something is not aligned. You learn to say no without guilt, to set boundaries without fear, and to prioritize your peace above everything. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of this process is the impact it has on the most important relationship of all, the one with yourself. Without the distractions of misaligned connections, you begin to hear your own voice with greater clarity. That voice, silenced for so long, now becomes your most trustworthy guide. You discover that the solitude that once seemed like an unbearable void is actually a gift, an invitation to reconnect with who you truly are, to explore parts of yourself that were ignored or neglected. It is in this space where you find your strength, your creativity, and your inner peace. And then something magical happens. The more you align with your truth, the more the universe seems to conspire in your favor. What once seemed impossible begins to flow with ease. New opportunities emerge, new paths open, and you realize that life is far richer and more expansive than you ever imagined. This is the true essence of spiritual awakening. It is not about escaping pain, but about walking through it with courage. It is not about avoiding change, but about embracing it as part of your evolution. Because in the end, awakening is not only about who you are becoming, it is about remembering who you have always been. Every step on this path is a discovery. Small things that once went unnoticed now hold deeper meaning. You start to notice that what appeared to be coincidence, unexpected encounters, words that touch your soul, signs that appear in moments of doubt, are actually part of a silent dialogue between you and the universe. This dialogue is not about immediate answers, but about subtle guidance. It invites you to observe, to feel, and to trust. Yet trusting can be difficult, especially when everything around you seems to be falling apart. How can you believe there is a purpose behind the pain of losing connections, the weight of age, or the emptiness that feels endless? The truth is that emptiness is not a hole you must fill, but a space you must honor. It is like winter in the cycle of seasons. It seems cold and barren, but it is in this period when the earth rests, when seeds prepare to germinate. The same happens within you. That space which feels so frightening is actually fertile ground where new possibilities begin to grow. And in this soil, one thing becomes evident. Spiritual awakening is not a promise that everything will be easy. It is not a guarantee that you will never feel pain or doubt again. But it is a call to truth, the truth of who you are, of what you need, and of what you deserve. Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That is what spiritual awakening does. It brings into the light all the stories you have told yourself, stories of inadequacy, sacrifice, and fear, and places them before you so that you can rewrite them. To rewrite these stories requires courage, because doing so means letting go of what no longer serves you, even if you have clung to it for a long time. You must be willing to release the old in order to make space for the new, and the new does not always arrive in the way you expect. Sometimes it comes as a challenge, a situation that tests your patience, your faith, and your strength. Other times it arrives as an unexpected blessing, a person who enters your life at the perfect moment, a revelation that transforms your perspective, or an opportunity that seems made just for you. These moments are like beacons that illuminate the road ahead. They do not remove the obstacles, but they make it easier to continue, even when the terrain is difficult. Because now, you are no longer walking in darkness. As you move forward, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Spiritual awakening is not only an individual journey, it is a movement that transforms everything around you. When you change, your relationships change, your energy changes, and with time, the world around you begins to align with this new reality. People who resonate with your new frequency appear almost as if by magic. They are connections that require no effort to maintain because they flow naturally. These people do not want you to be something you are not. They are not interested in controlling you or manipulating you. They are there because, like you, they are seeking authenticity and truth. And when you experience this kind of connection, everything makes sense. The pain of loss, the loneliness of the path, the emptiness that once felt unbearable, all of it reveals itself as part of a preparation, a necessary process for you to arrive here. But the most surprising discovery is realizing that while these connections appear, your relationship with yourself also strengthens. You uncover a new confidence, not based on external approval, but on the certainty that you are enough exactly as you are. This new sense of self-worth changes everything. You begin to say yes to what nourishes your soul and no to what drains it. You stop settling for emotional crumbs and begin to demand and offer wholeness. And this is not arrogance, it is self-love. Then something incredible happens. What once seemed like a lonely journey transforms into a cycle of sharing. You realize that by living your truth, you inspire others to do the same. Your light not only illuminates your own path, but also the path of those around you. This is the true gift of spiritual awakening. It is not just about you. It is about the impact your transformation has on the world. It is about how, by finding your own light, you become a beacon for those still searching for theirs. Have you noticed how, during spiritual awakening, even the simplest details begin to carry a different weight? A casual conversation, a song playing in the background, or even the silence of a quiet morning suddenly feel full of meaning, as if life itself is trying to tell you something you are finally ready to hear. That is the power of presence. Before, your attention was scattered between worries of the past, anxieties about the future, and the need to meet the expectations of others. But now, it is as if a ray of light shines upon the present moment, showing you that it is here, and only here, where true transformation happens. And in this new light, something fascinating emerges. What once seemed so urgent, so essential, begins to fade like smoke in the wind. Conversations filled with superficialities, habits that merely occupied time, commitments that existed only to avoid silence. All of it loses strength, as if now you can see life with clarity. What remains then is not a search for more, but for less. Less noise, less distraction, fewer relationships that only take up space. A deep desire for authenticity appears, for connections that feed the soul, for moments that truly matter. This change does not happen in a single instant. It is a subtle movement, almost imperceptible, but it grows with every choice, every thought, every step. And as you dive deeper into this path, you realize that it is not about finding definitive answers, but about asking the right questions. Who am I now? What really matters? How can I honor what I feel and who I am becoming? The answers arrive, but not from outside. They emerge from within, in the stillness of being present, in the courage of accepting what is, and in the constant invitation to keep exploring. Because deep down, you know that this path, which at first seemed so challenging, is only the beginning of something far greater. If this message has resonated with you, and you feel called to keep walking this path of inner discovery, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you never miss new reflections that can guide and inspire your journey. Remember, transformation is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding of who you are meant to become. As Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens."